Welcome to the City of Light. Today we're in Paris, stepping inside three quintessentially French apartments defined by romance, history, and unmistakable style. First, art gallerist Fanny Saulay welcomes us into her curated home that feels both eclectic and intentional. Then we visit the enchanting home of designer and author Timothy Corrigan, where storied antiques and flea market finds are part of everyday life. And finally, shoe designer Nicholas LaRusso Jr. invites us into his light-filled sanctuary, shaped by a life of travel, beauty, and a refined eye for detail. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. And be sure to check out our new show with interior designer Martin Lawrence Bullard, streaming exclusively on Homeworthy Plus.
You don't really know a city until you step inside the homes of the people who live there. Architecture as telling as accents, decor as delectable as local dishes, personalities who define the places they call home.
Listen, I like organized chaos.
I'm Martin Lawrence Bullard, and in Live, Love and Decorate, I'm taking you beyond the public squares and into the private spaces at the heart of my favorite cities.
I thought I'd come home.
We'll travel from Los Angeles to London, Paris to Istanbul, and even beyond, knocking on the doors of my dearest friends, bursting with style and stories that go way beyond design.
For you, I will do anything, my darling.
Can't wait to see, I'm so excited. Each home reveals more than just a city. It reveals the spirit. This show isn't about facades. It's about what's inside. It's a celebration of the passion and the personality that transforms a city's houses into true homes. Welcome to Live, Love and Decorate.
In the heart of Paris, a quietly enchanting apartment tells a story of art, memory, and home. Today on Homeworthy, we're welcomed inside the home of Fanny Saulay, co-founder of Willow and Grove, a next-generation art gallery making contemporary art more accessible, and a longtime art world insider who spent nearly a decade at Christie's in London, New York, and Paris, specializing in impressionist and modern art. From the moment Fanny and her husband first stepped inside this apartment, they knew it was something special. Rather than reinventing the space, they chose to honor its original character and layered in a deeply personal mix of art, craftsmanship, and soul.
So this is the living room, and here again you have a mix of different period. You have these chairs which are from the 60s. The sofa is new. This table was given to me by my grandmother, so there are also a few family heirlooms in the mix. Some of the furniture is also covered with kilim, so I like this energy that it brings in the home, and I think they bring a lot of warmth and joy and color to a space.
With a lifelong love of art rooted in her family, Fanny has curated a home that feels eclectic yet intentional. Colorful kilims, striking black and white photography, sculptural lighting, and vintage pieces from the 1960s all come together in a space that feels collected, expressive, and effortlessly lived in.
So this is a vintage photograph of Jackie Kennedy. I really liked, the moment in time, like the wind in her hair is very caught in the moment. I think it's exactly what photography is about. Hi Homeworthy, my name is Fanny Saulay and welcome to my home in Paris.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Fanny Saulay, I'm the co-founder of the Willow and Grove Gallery, and we are in my apartment in the 4th arrondissement. We live on the Ile Saint-Louis, so it's in the 4th arrondissement, the little island in the center of Paris. And it's a very old neighborhood with like old buildings, no underground station. It's very preserved and also quiet, which is strange because you're at the very center of Paris, but because there's no big streets or big roads, you don't have cars, you don't have the subway, and it's so it's at the heart of the city, but it's also like weirdly in kind of a little bubble at the center. And because it's in this bubble, it didn't occur to me before that real people were actually living on these islands. And so when we saw the advertisement for the apartment, we were like, oh, that's surprising. And also, like, my husband, when he was small, for like 2 years, maybe when he was around 4 years old, he lived with his mom in a small apartment nearby. So he had these vague memories of spending time on the island, but it was also like very distant. So that brought some memories. And on my side, my grandmother had, not on this island, but near the river, an apartment when I was a child. And also I have these memories of like the boats and the river and the lights at night on the ceiling. So it was, for both of us, it kind of triggered something, and we were like, oh, maybe we should go check it out, and we'll see what happens. And then we arrived here, and it was like the island itself is very pretty and very, I mean, it's the kind of a postcard of Paris. You have like the bridge and the beautiful buildings, the street, the lamps, like everything is kind of magical. And then we entered the courtyard, which is also very beautiful, and then the staircase, and we were like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. And it's also like so much filled with like history. It takes you to another time in Paris. So that was very moving, even like when we first visited. And then we arrived in the apartment, and we really had like a massive crush on the charm of the place, like the creaking floor and the windows on the Seine. Everything was just, I think, very nice. So the building is from the 17th century. We chose to preserve all the doors and also the wooden shutters from the inside. That's very typical of this period, a building from this period, that you will shut the shutters from the inside and not from the outside. So that's definitely there on all the windows, and we definitely kept that. Our intention when we created the place was to really respect the history of the place and the building, so like have all the features that were very old and part of the energy of the place enhanced and beautifully preserved, but also have our personality of what we like showing through the interior design. I guess our style, it's like ancient, old and modern, new, like it's making everything come together. We try. And this is the living room and dining room, actually, where we spend most of our time, and is my favorite room. So here, as in every room of the apartment, there is a mix of old and new, I would say. So for example, here in the dining area, you have this table that's from Silvio Coppola, that's from the 60s. The ceramic and the sculpture are contemporary. This is a sculpture that I love by Patricia Ziznis, who we represent as well at the gallery. The ceramic is also contemporary by a ceramist called Hélène Lecornu. The cupboard is much older. It's from Italy and is like a very old furniture that was restored by the very talented Italian carpenter that we have a few pieces by in the apartment. I will show you later. So the light is very special, I think, in this room, because you have lights coming from both sides of the room, from the north here on the river side, and from the south on the other side. So I think it's really great to have such a beautiful light. There used to be a wall just where I'm standing, so it would at the time hide a part of this light. So I think now it's great to have this light all around in the whole space. So this is the living room, and here again you have a mix of different period. You have these chairs which are from the 60s. The sofa is new. This table was given to me by my grandmother, so there are also a few family heirlooms in the mix. Some of the furniture is also covered with kilims, so I like this energy that it brings in the home, and I think they bring a lot of warmth and joy and color to a space. So we have them on the floor and sometimes also on furniture, on cushions, and I think they bring pops of warmth in different spots of the apartment. We have quite a lot of lamps throughout the apartment. I really like lamps, and also like bringing light in different parts of the space at night. I think it's very important, the lighting, how you create different atmospheres. So every lamp you see, I love. And we also have quite a lot of colorful ceramics, like these. All the small ceramics that you can find under the shape of lamps, of vases, of many different styles. Most of them are by a couple of ceramists that used to work in the 50s and 60s, called Jacques and Danny Ruellan. And that's kind of an addiction. So don't count how many we have, because if you do, you will find that we are a little addicted to them. But I think they are very, very special in terms of shape and color, and again, they can bring like little touches of joy and color in many different places of the apartment. We have different chairs in the living room. Most of them are from the 50s. You have the George Nelson coconut behind me, which is very a fun name and design. There's also another fun one called the Orange Slice by Pierre Paulin. And this one, which is very beautiful as well, more minimalist and with a very simple design but very elegant, by Gunther Renkel, which is in wood and metal, which I love too. So here you have a bookshelf that's vintage. I don't know the designer. Some piece of furniture I bought from a vintage dealer called Marchand d'Oubli. So they sell mostly unsigned items. Most of them are like used to be in workshops, for example. So they are like trade furniture. And so they have their own story too, even if we don't know who designed them. But I really like this one. Here you have a vintage table that used to be used in a sewing atelier. It's a Singer table. Singer was a very famous sewing machine brand back in the days. And so it's you unfold the tabletop. So and then behind it you have a little hole to plug the sewing machine, and then you have room for your fabric, etc. So I think it's very small, but it's really well designed. I think it's a very good example of something that's at the same time functional and beautiful, and I think that's the definition of a good design. So this is the photo by Bert Stern. That's the last sitting of Marilyn Monroe. We got it from the Dina Vierny Gallery in Paris, and it's I love it so much. It's beautiful. This is an orange circle by Fernando Daza, who's a Spanish artist, which we represent at the gallery. He works with hand-torn paper, and he will put all these little stripes of paper on top of each other and create a texture with the play of light and shadows. I'm a very big fan of his work, so you will find several works of his throughout the visit. These three lights are by a French ceramist. They are actually in ceramic. You can see the light through. I think it's a very beautiful effect. And so she's called Hélène Lecornu, and I like the fact that each one is different. They go very well together, but they all have their own personality in a way. So we weren't sure what to place here because it's in between the entry hall and the main living space, and it's kind of an in-between space but still quite large. So eventually on the same website as the bookshelf Marchand d'Oubli, we saw this vintage bar and we were like, well, why not? That could work, and here it is. So I was born in Paris, and my family is very interested in art in general. It's not like a professional thing, like no one works in the art world or they are not art collectors, but it's just like something that's very important to every side of my family. So the practice of art is quite present, and also like the importance of watching art, like going to exhibitions, to museums, churches, a lot of churches in my childhood with my grandparents and my parents because of the art, much more than because of the church itself. But it was like a very important part of my upbringing, always being aware of the art and how important it is, and then I wanted to have that in my everyday life at home, but also in my work environment. So I started studying art history and business, and so the art market seemed to be the right fit for me. So I initially started at Christie's auction, and I stayed there for around 10 years. I was an Impressionist and modern art specialist. Some of it in Paris, some of it in New York and London, but most of my time there was in Paris. It was a very rich environment. I learned a lot about the art market, also about like client services and how to handle works of art and clients and collectors. And then I wanted to take all this knowledge that I took from Christie's and do my own adventure, you might say. And so with a former colleague at Christie's, Olivia de Fayette, we decided to go and create our own contemporary art gallery. So we did that in 2017, and it's called Willow and Grove. And the idea is to have affordable art. So we try to speak to a new group of clients that maybe is not very comfortable with the regular galleries or like the art market, as you can perceive it as intimidating, a little cold. So we wanted to do something to bring new people, to get them to go inside a gallery without being afraid of not feeling comfortable. So we really want to have the prices accessible and affordable, but also the whole atmosphere of the gallery is really thought to be welcoming and to bring new people to contemporary art. So this room didn't exist before. It was part of the former living room, but we found it nice to have a spare room for guests and also an office to work. This window, which is from this room to the hallway, didn't exist before. We put it there to bring the lights inside, and I think it's a cozy room where we can work and relax at the same time. So we thought that this room could be at the same time an office where we can work, and also like a guest room when we have friends or family visiting. So I think it's a room where we can work sometimes and other times relax. We have quite a few photographs in the apartment from many different times. So some of it is very old, again, like vintage. Some of it is anonymous. I think I really like anonymous photography because I think it's like stolen moments in time. Like you don't know the story exactly, you don't know who the sitter is, you don't know who the photographer is, but there's like kind of a mystery around it, and it's very all comes together in this very short moment of the snapshot. So I have quite a few of them, and also most of the photography we have is black and white, probably because the rest of the decor is very colorful, so it balances out, I think, the color of the space. Behind me is a photograph by Bart Kuykens, who's a photographer now, working and loves photographing old cars. So that's one of them. This is near our place in Italy, so it's also a reminder of our other home. So this is a vintage photograph of Jackie Kennedy. I really liked, again, like the moment in time, like the wind in her hair is very caught in the moment. I think it's exactly what photography is about. So we have a few lamps and furniture that is the kind that you would find in a factory or in like offices in the 60s or the 50s. I think it's, again, they were very functional, but also like colorful. Again, like a good design that was more at first for the functionality and the practicality, but then at the time they would take so much care about the line, and I think it's yeah, the best of both worlds. This is the main bedroom. It also has like the beautiful views on the river. This ceiling lamp, which we bought at the Puce as well. We don't know the designer. It's also like unknown, but it makes a very beautiful light on the ceiling. There's these mirrors by a French artist called Line Vautrin. She was quite famous in the 60s, and she works with a very specific material called talocel. It's like a kind of a mosaic material, and it's I think a kind of magic with the reflection, and also like the mirror is a little rounded kind of magic mirror, I guess. And there's also this very big chair. We love it a lot. It was difficult to find a spot for it in the apartment, because initially we thought we would put it in the living room, but suddenly in the living room it seemed like huge compared to the rest of the chairs, and sometimes you don't know why, but it just doesn't work. But you have to make it work. So you just move things around until you find the spot. And if you have to move something this big around, it's not exactly easy. But in the end, we found, I think, the perfect spot for it in the bedroom. So very happy about it. And it's right below vintage print of Las Vegas. This was like a commercial poster, but it's also like it has this 60s vibe, very colorful, and it matches the energy of the chair. So it's the good ending for this story. When I started collecting, I think collecting is always like a big word, and that's also a word that can be a little impressive and scary, but actually as soon as you have two works of art, it's a small collection. So it can start very small, and then you just, it's kind of addictive, I would say, because as I said, when you have like this feeling of joy, you want more. So it's it's something when you start, it's hard to stop. What I realized is also that most people think that you need to have like a big budget to buy art, but that's also the point of my gallery, is to show that of course it's like nothing to buy a work of art, like a unique original work of art, but it's not what you would imagine, like tens of thousands of dollars. You can really have beautiful, smaller things that will be affordable. So that's how I started. When I had my first job and I didn't have a lot of money, I would go straight to artists and find their work beautiful, and then little by little I started to buy some of them, and that's also when we started the gallery, Willow and Grove. These are the first artists we had and represented, were the ones I bought before, and my partner Olivia, the same group of artists that she had in her house, and so we went back to them and we said, well, would you like to come on board this new adventure? And that's actually like the first group of artists that we had were the one we collected ourselves. Yeah, and then it's just, it keeps growing. Most of the works I have are from the artist of the gallery, just because also like the philosophy of the gallery is to select artists that we love and we would want to have in our home. So most of the time we do. So some of them are from before we had the gallery, and yeah, it's always a you can't really explain, I think, why you connect with the work of art. It's really personal, it's really emotional, and I think it's pointless to try to like make a whole theory about what makes such and such works like important or interesting. It's just like, well, it speaks to me. I connect. That's it. That's what matters. It should be enough. It's what you should be looking for anyway, like this connection and special crush on a work of art without trying to explain it. But also, I think it's important to do that in an environment that feels safe. For example, at the gallery, that's why we try to create this safe space where we have the expertise. So we have a selection of artists. We can vouch for like the quality of what they do, and so I think it's important, whether at my galleries or wherever, just to find somewhere or someone that you trust, and then who can present you with like options. And then when you're in this safe environment, just feel free to connect or not with such work. And there is always a story behind a work of art that the gallerist or the expert can tell you about. And that's also very important, because it's like part of the process of the creation. It's how the artist had the idea. It's clearly interesting and part of it. But if you don't connect, if you don't have the emotional feeling, then yeah, maybe it's interesting, maybe the story behind it is cool, but I would not advise anyone to buy something that is just like interesting because someone told you it was, but you don't feel anything in front of it. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I think to create an authentic space is to try to find things that again move you and like you find beautiful. And I understand that it's sometimes hard to trust yourself, because you're like, well, maybe I think it's beautiful, but no one else would think it's beautiful. But at the same time, who cares? I think as for most things in life, it's more important what you think than what other people think, because I mean there are as many opinions as there are people, so if you just try to please I don't know who, then you will always end up like being disappointed or not achieving what you're looking for. If you're only trying to be happy yourself, love what you put together, well, at least you succeed. You have a chance to succeed. So that is my advice, like trust yourself, don't try to match like everybody's taste, because like then you have like something very standardized and everything looks the same. That's a little sad. I think with my husband we have very similar tastes, and we tried always to pick things that we love both, like because it's like we live here together. It's really rare that we don't agree on things, so we have like a good fit on that too. So here is the main bathroom. Here we wanted a feeling a little different from the rest of the apartment. So as for the kitchen and the other guest bathroom, we changed the floor to ancient tiles, terracotta tiles. So it gives a very warm feeling and like a kind of a countryside vibe that we like. There's also a few pieces of furniture that were made by an Italian carpenter called Giovanni Calatini. He also made the main bookshelf in the living room. And what is very particular about his work is that he uses antique woods and use them to create contemporary furniture. So the mix of the old material and the contemporary design creates these very unique pieces of furniture that we love. Like this one behind me is an example of his work, as well as the huge dressing cupboard. And yeah, it's a very beautiful, the wood is amazing, the detail is beautiful. And again, like even if it's something new, it has some history because of the material. And also it was kind of fun to have the contrast between like the Parisian apartment and the city life, and also like in the more private rooms, like the bathrooms and kitchen, to feel more like in the countryside and have the more homey, warm feeling. We moved in 2018. So when we first visited the place, the people had been living here for like 30 years, I guess, so it had not been renovated for a while. We made a lot of changes at first when we moved in. We took out walls, so there was behind where I'm sitting now was a wall cutting this room in two. So we just thought it was a shame, because it's like this room is where you have like the double light from the north and the south, and so it was important to us to make the most out of this like beautiful natural light. And we also rearranged like how the floor plan. Here when we sit now, what used to be the living room, so it's now kind of the entrance. We added office / guest room. We redid entirely the bathrooms. We redid some of the floor, so it was quite like an important makeover, but also like the base was so beautiful, and we really wanted to keep like the spirit and the vibe of the apartment. Some of the beams were covered when we arrived. Only the part next to the fireplace was uncovered, so we decided to uncover the rest of it, because it's just like also part of the charm of this old building, and it's a shame to cover them. So we decided to uncover that. With my husband Thomas, we've tried to incorporate that into our home. I would try is not the right word, I would say, because it's not like necessarily intentional, but it's just like, first of all, it's for me, the living space is just like, it's about being, again, comfortable, being happy, like it should bring you joy and comfort and coziness and memories as well. Like most of all, I would say, objects that are here have like their unique story, and we picked them like together because we were like on a travel and we were like, oh, that would be a nice memory, or we were in an exhibition and we had like this crush on an art piece. So it's very like it comes together naturally, and then we try to arrange it like in a way that to us is nice, but everything is picked individually without like thinking or trying to have like a bigger picture, because who knows where where you're going when you just like choose one object. Or like, oh well, we'll find a spot, like it will come together. And it's but it's true that it should be nice to look at, but it's also like it's your home, you're supposed to live in it, so it's also like, and mostly made for making you feel comfortable and not like something in a magazine or like something that you wouldn't dare sitting on a chair, or this. I don't really get this kind of homes because it's not homey, so it's yeah, that would be how I do it. This is our kitchen. It's not very big, but it's very cozy. So this is the chicken wire that started the whole countryside idea for the kitchen and bathrooms. The countertop is lava, and it's a very good material because it looks beautiful. It looks a little bit like ceramic, but it's actually very strong, so you can really cook and do whatever you have to do in your kitchen without worrying about damaging the surface. So it's a very beautiful, I think, element of the kitchen. These shelves were already there when we arrived, and we liked the idea of having some elements out, not in the cupboard. So it's a mix of things that we use every day and also things that are just we find nice and pretty. So these are by a French designer called Jeanne Ray, who was like an architect and a designer. And you can find this style of like industrial vibe, but very clear, neat design. Yeah, I really love them. So the wallpaper comes from a brand called Le Monde Sauvage, and they have like many different patterns of very handmade, beautiful wallpaper. So we thought they would bring something a little original to this room. And here is a lamp by a brand called Rotaflex, and they invented this process to create and shape plastic in any shape you want. So they were the first to like create this technology, and you can always recognize their object because they have the stripe structure on their object, and there are, yeah, it's kind of a UFO lamp, which is quite fun. Okay, so this is the entryway. So it used to be the dining room formerly, so we changed that because we wanted to have a proper room when you entered the apartment. On your right, there's a wall of a mix of vintage photos. Some are like a collage. There's family photos as well. So it's like a mix of different things that we like, all black and white, but from different times and style. This is my favorite piece of this wall. It's an anonymous photographer, but it was taken in the 60s, and it's a very fun image in black and white with the play on shadows and reflection in the mirror, and I really just like the 60s vibe and the fact that it's so small and you can see all the details when you get closer. And on this side of the room, there's a very beautiful piece of furniture by Charlotte Perriand, who was a French designer, an important designer in the 50s and 60s. And next to it is an Eames chair. They are from the same period of time, so I think they go very well together. And above the furniture is a painting by Audrey Noël, who we represent at the Willow and Grove Gallery. And it's a very beautiful composition with colors that the artist doesn't use usually, so it's very special, I guess. The shape and color palette, I had a very strong connection to this piece of art when I saw it, and I think it fits perfectly with the atmosphere of this room. So the two lights here are by Jacques Bini, and they are called the cerf-volant, which means kite, and they're vintage. We bought them at the Puce de Saint-Ouen. And there's also this lamp, which I love, but we don't know where it comes from. I mean, we cannot identify it. We bought it from a friend, Xavier Brunswick, who's a design expert, and he has very, very good taste, and we had a big crush on this lamp, like Space Age period, but we don't know who designed it. So if you know, let us know, because we would like to know. But it's a very nice piece of light. My favorite space in the home is where we are now. I think it's where most of my time is when I'm here, because it's like at the same time the dining room and the sitting room, the fireplaces. So that's where I spend most of my time, either when I'm alone or with my husband or with friends. So it's also where you have this like double light coming inside. So you have a beautiful view on the river, but also like on the courtyard, and it's very it's very quiet. It's very serene, I would say, and that's my favorite room. I think what gives the home its soul is it's being active in the process of choosing what it's made of, like just not having like things around just because it's like the trend of the moment, of like someone told you it's the right thing to put in your home, or you saw it in the magazine. So because that's just like for show, I guess. But if you really have objects and art that is to you brings like joy or happiness or good memories, like it has to bring you something. Each of everything, each element of your home should bring you something specific, and I think when you have that, then it's like a home, not just like a place to sleep in. Home means like being like protected, like feeling safe and feeling comfortable, and being also like yourself, like completely at ease with your environment. And again, I think like joy is really important. Like when I come home, I'm always like have this feeling of being like happy to find my place and to look around, and I think it's really important. Like it's not functional only. Like it's really a place of joy, and looking at every picture or every object brings me a little a little joy each time. So that's where I feel home. Thank you so much, Homeworthy. It was really nice having you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Timothy Corrigan, and I'm so excited to have you here in my apartment in Paris. Come on in, I want to show you around.
In the 16th arrondissement, tucked away on a street of grand limestone facades, lies a home that defines the art of the lived-in French philosophy. Today we step inside the Parisian pied-à-terre of renowned designer and author Timothy Corrigan. His home is a space where museum-quality auction finds and flea market treasures aren't just for show.
These were actually created by Christian Dior, and they were considered his muses. They were his design muses. You can see the fabric here, the scissors at the bottom of the fabric, and they were in his atelier for all the time that he was alive.
His philosophy, comfortable elegance, from the literature-steeped atmosphere of the study to architectural moldings defined by a dozen shades of paint. This is a masterclass in layering.
I just love the mixture of all the different elements in this room. I actually designed this bed, and it was in my home in Los Angeles. And you can see that the ceilings were much, much lower there. You can see the ceilings are taller here. It used to just graze the ceiling here in my home in Los Angeles, but here there's plenty of room for it to go. But again, it's this wonderful, light, bright room where the yellow curtains, it says sunshine. It makes you happy when you wake up.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Timothy Corrigan. I'm an interior designer and a product designer with offices in Los Angeles and Paris. And today we're here in my apartment in Paris. I first came to Paris in actually 1987. I used to work in advertising, and I was brought over to become the head of the European operations for a very big advertising agency. And I lived in Paris for around 7 years and just absolutely fell in love with the city and sort of determined that I always wanted to have a place here, even if I couldn't live here full time. This is actually my 5th apartment in Paris. I was living just near the Place de Concorde in the center of Paris. And then COVID came, and during the beginning of COVID, I found out that Hermès was buying the building directly next door to me. And they were going to be keeping the front facade, but literally tearing down everything behind. And so it was going to be around a 5 or 6 year renovation. And I was determined I was not going to live next to a renovation site for 5 to 6 years. So during COVID, I started looking for a new apartment. I actually, couldn't come to Paris at the time, so I had to do it all through internet and through WhatsApp calls with brokers. And I found this apartment literally and got the apartment without ever seeing it in person. So I literally just found it by videos. I have to say, my entire life of living in Paris, I always sort of scoffed at the 16th arrondissement. I thought it was for old bourgeois people, and all of a sudden I realized, well, you know what? I'm probably old and bourgeois, so it probably is just fine for me. But no, I really took the apartment because I loved the space, the light of the space, and the incredible architecture that was here. And that's really what drove me to take this apartment. So the building was built in the Belle Époque period, which is the area which was really in French history, which was really all about show. It was really about elegance, and Belle Époque is the beautiful period. And so it's a very ornate building. It was actually this apartment was actually built by the original owner of the building, and so it has wonderful terraces and balconies off of most of the windows. And it really was. It's really a beautiful building. There's just one apartment per floor, and it's, for Paris standards, it's a very big apartment. It's around 3,600 square feet. So it's a big apartment in Paris. This is sort of the daytime salon, and some of the architectural details that I really love in this room are the incredible plasterwork ceiling, which I painted in 5 different colors to accentuate all the beautiful architectural detailing. The next room, which is adjacent, is sort of what I would call the evening salon. And again, it's very similar to the daytime salon. It's literally double the size, and so I've got this pair of sofas. And again, you can sort of see the same mirror, the same in the center and fireplace, the same sets of mirrors on the sides. Similar chandelier, but not exactly the same. And again, it's that aspect of symmetry that makes the room feel so special. One of my favorite things in the entire room is this painting by Jacques-Louis David, and it's a study he did for a much, much larger painting that's in the Louvre here in Paris. I think one of my favorite sort of moments in the whole apartment is this mixture of items here, which is really certainly incredible things that I found from all over. This wonderful 1940s bust from that I found for Paris flea market. This sort of fun taxidermy bird in front of this wonderful sort of simple watercolor by Rodin. And it's the mixture of all those different elements together that I find so much fun. The way they're just sort of casually placed there so that you don't actually say, gee, look at me, but you start to notice them over time as we start to sit in the room. Well, there were doors between these two rooms, and so they were really meant to be sort of separated. And I decided to take the doors out and actually sort of make it one big salon, but making it feel like it was, they were almost two rooms in respect that one I feel feels more of the daytime room. It's all done in white furniture. That's all outdoor fabric, so you can really come in and be in the daytime, and it feels light and bright. This room is the more formal room. This is silk velvet. If you've ever had silk velvet, you'll know that if you look at it funny, it will stain or it will mark. So this is the more formal, that's the more casual. And I really sort of liked that aspect of having two rooms that are all together. What's also interesting is that the French really understand and appreciate the importance of symmetry. And so this is a room that's all about, these two rooms are really all about symmetry. So there's a fireplace. They're not exactly the same fireplace in each room. There's a mirror that doesn't exactly match in each room. And then I decided to continue it. So I added mirrors on both sides of the doors on both rooms. So there's a sense of symmetry. Symmetry is very important because you actually feel more comfortable. Unconsciously, you feel more comfortable in a room that is symmetrical. So that's one of those other aspects of elegant comfort. You don't have to try to figure it out. In a room that's asymmetrical, you're always trying to balance it and try to figure out, well, why is that there and that's not there? By nature, we crave symmetry. I mean, think about our faces. Our faces are all about symmetry. Our bodies are symmetrical. So it's really, it's a natural state of being. From here, I'd like to take you across the hall to my library and study, which is really my favorite room in the entire house. This was intended to be the dining room, but because I don't entertain that much, I've turned it into my office. You can see the wonderful beamed ceiling, and I actually had Excel, the English company, create special wallpaper panels to make it look like it's the original frescoed ceiling above. And my very favorite item in the entire house is this wonderful 18th century screen that you can see is from the time of Louis XV, when what is now the Place de Concorde was then called Place Louis XV. And you can see it's before any of the buildings that have been built up around it were there. And you can see what is Montmartre off in the distance. And I actually found this at the Paris flea market, which is really there's so many amazing things that if you come to Paris, you absolutely must go visit the Paris flea market. I think one of the things that I love about this room is, again, it's all the architectural detailing. And because I spend so much time doing architecture, I have all the artwork is actually architecturally detailed and inspired. And this wonderful maquette here of the pavilion in Montpellier, which is just a spectacular building as well. The first thing I saw when I actually walked in for the first time was I just noticed all the incredible plaster work, the ceiling work, the beautiful paneling, the boiserie in the walls. It's something that I really love. It's become sort of fashionable in recent years in Paris just to paint all of it white, and that's exactly what they had done here. And so I actually went back and highlighted all the different beautiful detailing, architectural detailing with different colors. So this room alone has probably around 5 different colors of creams and whites in it, which actually accentuate the architectural detailing and actually make you appreciate them that much more. And it's interesting because research actually shows that spaces that have architectural detailing actually make you feel better. You actually feel enhanced. They elevate the overall spirit. So it's a real shame when they just all get whitewashed out and you don't notice them anymore. And this is the dining room of the apartment. It actually was originally a bedroom, but I decided to make this into a dining room because it's got this wonderful proportions. It's intimate and it is square, which is actually wonderful for a round dining room table like this. One of my favorite aspects in this entire room are these wonderful sculptures. These were actually created by Christian Dior, and they were considered his muses. They were his design muses. You can see the fabric here, the scissors at the bottom of the fabric, and they were in his atelier for all the time that he was alive. One of the other things that I really love is this wonderful cartoon. A cartoon is the artwork. It was used for a tapestry in the 17th and 18th centuries. It was the basis upon which the tapestry was created. Very few of them actually still exist because they were not considered very valuable at the time. The value was, of course, in the finished product, the tapestry. But this is a wonderful cartoon for a tapestry. I just love the richness of the colors. I chose the blue for the dining room because I actually pulled the colors out of the tapestry, or the cartoon of tapestry. And I also wanted to mix then these Danish rondelles, which are bright and crisp and white. So again, it was the combination of the white, and which goes so well against a pale blue background that was found in the cartoon tapestry. Well, it's interesting because I love coral. I think coral is such a wonderful warm color. Yellow reds are actually, I find, much more inviting than a blue red, which is a colder red. So the warm coral color red is just a wonderful complement to so many different colors, but it works particularly well with this sort of pale blue. I think that what's interesting is that when you take pieces from different cultures and put them together, you actually see how similar they often are, and yet you also see the contrast and the differences. And again, it's that tension that is created by those pairings that make you actually see them all almost for the first time, because you see them in context with something which is totally different. You want to have a room that doesn't reveal all of its secrets in the first 3 minutes. You want to have a room that sort of, as you spend more time in it, you start to see, oh my goodness, I hadn't noticed that, or I see this, and isn't that pretty? You want to be in a space that has those layerings, and those layerings are what create the interest in the room. You know what's so interesting is about contemporary clean spaces is they really look great when you look at it in a magazine or in a book. But once we bring all of our things into that space, our iPad, our computer, the dog leash, whatever it is, you add those extra pieces in, and that beautiful, pristine room doesn't look so good anymore because it's meant to be lived in minimally. But it's not really the way we live today. So I think that by living in a space that is more accepting of different layers, you actually can live in it more comfortably. I think this home is a reflection of my life and my journey in that it really reflects things that I found all over the world and really love. We're currently working, for example, in 7 different countries around the world. So I go around the world once a month, and I'm always sort of seeing things and picking things up. And it's that aspect of acquiring things and then letting them go as well. I think it's so important not to have too much attachment to our possessions. So I'm routinely sort of rotating things in and out of my homes, and so that it never feels stagnant to me as well. It always feels very alive. One of the wonderful things about this apartment is it's got lots and lots of closets and long hallways. So we're going to go to my bedroom at the end of the hall. And this is my bedroom, and you can see the incredible wood paneling throughout this room. And I got the inspiration for the coloration from the beautiful museum here in Paris, the Carnavalet, which has got wonderful 18th century rooms. And this beautiful cerulean blue was actually picked up from a room that I saw there. This room, for me, is a really good example of the kind of things that I really value in terms of interior design. There's a mixture of different things. There's contemporary paintings, there's classical paintings, there's beautiful 17th century ruins of sculptures, and then the playfulness of this wonderful rabbit that's just so clearly having fun. I just love the mixture of all the different elements in this room. I actually designed this bed, and it was in my home in Los Angeles. And you can see that the ceilings were much, much lower there. You can see the ceilings are taller here. It used to just graze the ceiling here in my home in Los Angeles, but here there's plenty of room for it to go. But again, it's this wonderful, light, bright room where the yellow curtains, it says sunshine. It makes you happy when you wake up. And it's that aspect of joyfulness that I think is so important for every house. Really, the basis of all of my design work is what I call comfortable elegance, which is that even in the most beautiful setting, you really want it to be comfortable. So it's, you know, it's in terms of the furniture that is comfortable to sit in, that the furniture you can put down, don't have to worry about putting a wet glass and leaving a stain, etc. So it's really all about comfort first. And a number of the fabrics in this apartment are actually done with outdoor fabrics that I've designed that are actually made to be really totally livable. I think that one of the things that I try to do when I design any space is to mix high and low. And so something that can be very expensive and beautiful next to something that can be very basic and very rough and very inexpensive. But it's the contrast between the two that makes you appreciate them so much more. Or mixing a more contemporary table. This is a table that I designed for Schumacher, which again, it's a very clean line, and yet it mixes wonderfully with this wonderful sort of Louis XIV set of benches next to it. So it's that mix that makes them each feel more special. One of the things that I really love is I love going to auctions. Finding things at auction or at flea markets are so much more interesting than going into a fancy antique store where you're going to pay top dollar. It's the whole treasure hunt aspect that I really love. And it's then mixing something. So we've got this wonderful watercolor by Rodin, and yet it's perched right next to a taxidermy parrot. And I just love that mixture, the playfulness. It's not taking anything too seriously. And it's also taking, for example, a Rodin watercolor and just having it seated on mounted on the fireplace. It's not hung with all this, sort of prominence. It's just sort of meant to be sort of there casually. And I think it's that sort of that a casual approach to design that I really like, because it makes the space feel so much more livable.
And you can see we're here in the kitchen of the apartment. It actually was originally a much smaller room. The wall stopped right there. I took the room beyond it and extended it on to make a much larger kitchen. Kitchens in Paris are not usually very large, and they very rarely have a place to sit and eat in them. So I really wanted to have sort of more of an American style kitchen. I chose the color red for the cabinetry because it's so much fun. You can't help but walk in and smile. And it's probably not a good thing for me, but actually red makes you more hungry, makes you want to eat more. So I thought that was sort of a fun thing as well. And then I mixed it with these wonderful 19th century plates with the black and white. So it's a really mixture of red, white, and black throughout the entire room. The table and chairs are wonderful. They're designed by the French designer Jean-Charles Moreau from the 1930s. You see the wonderful leaf detail here. And I covered them in my fabric from Perennials. So again, you can have a white fabric in the middle of the kitchen and not worry about spilling because it all cleans up.
I think it's interesting. The French sense of design and American are very different. And people often think of French design as being stuffy and uptight. I would actually say it's almost the reverse. American design is all about matching colors and making it all sort of go together. French design is much more open to mixing different colors that you wouldn't think of going together, mixing patterns together, mixing different styles together, and it's that mix and melange that sort of looks like it's been acquired over time that actually makes it so much more livable than a space that is totally matched. American designers, for example, often start with the carpet, and they use the carpet and build up from the carpet. I think that's a mistake, because then you get this really matchy look. And so I really like a more eclectic approach.
This room is one of the guest bedrooms of the apartment, and you can actually see it. It's on the front of the apartment. It's actually overlooking the Eiffel Tower. And I decided to make this room sort of a nice pale peach color because it's very calming and soothing. I wanted to create a room that when my friends came in from a busy day out of the streets of Paris, they come in and actually feel that they could really relax in this room. And you can see these three paintings here are studies by the 19th century painter Gustave Moreau, which he did these studies for much larger paintings. But I think they give a lot of drama to the room. Something that was very traditional from the 18th century. Whenever you have a canopy bed or ciel de lit like this, it's very traditional to have a painting over the bed. Actually, in the more religious households in the 18th century, they would actually have crosses above the bed, but if they were less religious, it would have a painting. From here, let me take you to one of the other guest bedrooms in the apartment.
And this bedroom is in the rear of the apartment. And I decided to do this. This has wonderful afternoon light. So I decided to list on a little stronger color. It's this lovely lavender. And you can see all these fabrics are from my collection for Schumacher. I have a lot of go-to design tips. And I think that I would just give you a couple of them. One is don't ever underestimate the value of paint, of using paint to totally transform a room. Color is so important in terms of transforming your mood and the way you feel in that space. And there's more and more color research showing how certain colors create good, sense of well-being, good health, etc. Those that stimulate conversation, those that actually restore you. So I would say always look at what you want that room to do, what you want it to be for you, and use colors that are appropriate for that. So that would be one go-to tip. The next is, again, so it's so important to look at what you're going to use that room for. If you've got children, if you've got dogs, etc., you want to make sure that you're using the materials that are appropriate so you can live in that space really comfortably. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, we've all been in rooms where the hostess or the hostess are like, oh, don't put that there, don't put your feet on that, don't, etc. You don't feel comfortable in that space. And so it's so important to use materials where you really can live in it very practically. So whether it's using a mirrored top, a marble top, rather than just a plain wood. Or one of the things we often do is we put marine varnish on top of a wood, on top of even an antique, because it allows you to put a wet drink down, a hot mug, and not leaving a stain. So it's an easy thing to do that you can do to any piece of furniture without having to worry about how you live with it. You know, I think it's important to, if you've got things that you love, to of course use them so that you can enjoy them every day. But we know one of the interesting things is I think it's very important not to keep something in the same place all the time, because research actually shows that if you leave an object, a painting or an object, whatever, in the same place all the time, after around 3 to 4 months, you visually actually stop seeing it. You stop registering it because you know that it's there. You go, oh yeah, that's that. You don't recognize it. So I always advise people to move things around. Don't keep them all in the same place. And you'll actually feel like you've got a more wonderful range of accessories and items when you do that. I think the most important thing that I always feel as a person is that I want to feel like I'm always growing, that I'm always learning. I fill my homes with books. I'm obsessed with books, so and with learning. So to me, it's that aspect of feeling that your home is always evolving and growing as well. That it's not just the same home that you moved into 10 years ago. That it actually continues to evolve to fit who you have become today. What I love absolutely most about this home is the sunshine, the brightness, the feeling of it. It feels, just when I come in, I sort of go, oh, it's this sense of this is home. And I think that's really what home should be. It should be that sense of this is the place that I am my very best self. You know, it's interesting because I've always, as a designer, I always felt that home needs to be the sanctuary. It needs to be the place that you really can feel safe and secure, almost like a baby that's bundled up. But in recent years, my design philosophy has actually evolved a little bit from that. And I think that's almost the prerequisite. That's almost the baseline, is that I feel comfortable, I feel safe. What I'm actually trying to do with my interiors now is actually elevate and create a sense of joy when you are in those spaces. That you actually, yes, you feel safe, you feel comfortable, but you also feel a sense of joyfulness. You feel a sense of inner happiness. And that's something that can be achieved through the colors, through the textures, and through the shapes of what you use in a room. Homeworthy, thank you so much for coming. It's been so much fun to show you around my apartment in Paris, but I'm afraid it's time to say au revoir. Bye-bye.
Today we're in the heart of Paris, stepping inside the serene and exquisitely curated home of shoe designer Nicholas LaRusso Jr. Having lived in multiple countries, Nicholas has crafted a space that feels both worldly and deeply personal. A sanctuary of calming neutrals, gentle textures, and meaningful treasures gathered from a life spent in motion.
Have the balcony that wraps around the flat, which is lovely. It faces the west, so all of the light comes in on a beautiful day. It's completely sun-drenched, which is wonderful.
A devoted antiques market explorer, Nicholas fills his home with pieces collected from around the globe, with a particular love for finds from his travels throughout Asia.
This is a 19th century finial from the monastery in Southeast Asia. The myth is that they call this the Garuda, which is the half-man, half-bird being.
Every object has a story, every vignette a memory, and in true Nicholas fashion, he never leaves the house without a pair of shearing scissors, ready to snip a beautiful branch if it happens to catch his eye on the way home.
It's nice to bring the nature back into the house, so these kind of go with me everywhere I go.
From his carefully tended silverware collection cherished since childhood, to the effortless elegance that flows through each room, this home is a portrait of thoughtful curation and quiet joy.
I told my mother I wanted silverware, and I think that they should have known that there was a problem at maybe 14 years old when I asked for silverware.
So join us as we step into this peaceful Parisian retreat and discover the beauty Nicholas has so lovingly gathered over a lifetime. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Nicholas LaRusso. Welcome to my little abode in Paris. Come on in. My name is Nicholas LaRusso. I'm a shoe designer, and we're here in my Paris flat in the 6th district. I was looking for a flat here in Paris for quite a long time, and what happened was the company that was helping me look for the flats showed me so many. We came to this one and we opened the door, and I said to the person the real estate agent person who was helping me, I said, "This is it." And it's exactly what I was looking for, because it was on a high floor, so you have on the 5th floor, you have the balcony that wraps around the flat, which is lovely. It faces the west, so all of the light comes in on a beautiful day. It's completely sun-drenched, which is wonderful. The bedroom is on a 90-degree angle, so there's 2 windows that you see in the bedroom, which is lovely. And the architectural elements were really, really beautiful, and I thought that it would be I'm actually a minimalist by heart, and I thought that the architectural details would be the most beautiful with my personal taste. One of the first things that I really loved about this flat was that when you come in, you have this small little foyer area. So it's really nice because you can put some furniture so that when you don't just walk into the room and you're already in the living room. When you walk into the flat here, we have one of my favorite things, which is a Burmese offering vessel. The Burmese aristocrats and the monks would use these vessels to bring food in to the monasteries. So they're normally made of red lacquer, bamboo, and they're lacquered in red. And I think that the effect and the lines are super, super beautiful. One of the great things about these is that when you walk in a front door, you always need a place to put your keys, put your wallet, put your ID from work. So it opens up, and I've got all my junk in here. And one of the most important things to me is this, which is my little shears that go in my bag every day with me for work, because as you'll see, all I do is cut branches around from trees. I don't really love rigid floral centerpieces. I like to just cut branches and twigs and things like that from trees and put them in water, because it's nice to bring the nature back into the house. So these kind of go with me everywhere I go. So in the foyer area here, it's just the right area to have enough space to be able to furnish it properly. In the space, I have 90 centimeter, 91 Sarnian marble table. On top, I like to use some books. I'm an obsessive book collector. It's been something I've collected for the last 30 years, and they're all over the house. And on top of the books, I have some ceramics from a designer whom I met in London. Her name is Jo Davies, and she's super talented, and the shapes and the forms that she does are really, really beautiful. And I've collected a lot of her pieces, and I just kind of put one in the other. They're actually separate bowls. She calls them little pouring dishes, and I think that they're super beautiful together. This is an African kudu. I think it's called a kudu, an African kudu horn, which I believe are the largest, some of the largest horns that they have in Africa. And I have this thing for altar candles. I love altar candles because I think that the story that they have to tell are super beautiful. In fact, if you look at it, it's really interesting because you can tell that in the 18th and 19th century, they used to paint the front of the altar candle and the back of it is not painted. So it's really, really interesting because obviously when you enter the church, everybody sits in front of the altar, but you can't see behind it. So they only had to spend money to decorate the front of the candle. And it's a funny story because just about last week, I was on the bicycle going to my gym class, and there was a market here in Paris, which I think that this city has the best market in the whole world. And I was driving my bicycle, and I was going to my 10 o'clock class, and I couldn't be late. And I saw that there was a vendor, and she had this candlestick here. And I saw it, and I thought, I've got to have that. So I couldn't be late for my class, so I went to the class, and I came back, and it was raining, of course, like it always is in Paris. And I thought, if it's still available, it means that it's mine. So I ran back after the class, tried to find the vendor. I found her, it was still there, and I brought it home. This is another little object that I found actually in the market a long time ago. It's about a €5 60s glass canister, and I think the shape is super, super beautiful. And there's just some olive branches that I put in there because, like I said, I'm kind of a serial twig cutter, and I found an olive tree that was near the gardens back here, and I was able to take some twigs. In fact, they're all over the house this week. Over here is a Benin head. The Benin people were very, very famous for having bronze castings of their kings, and they would make them of their ancestors. I love this one. And this is a 19th century Chinese little altar table, and underneath that is just kind of like a €10 find little plastic table. And I think that the contrast is super nice between the rough table of the antique and just the sleekness of that white side cube table. There is some art on the wall here in the foyer. One of the things that I really, really love, along with lots of other things, is black and white photography. This is a photograph of Werner Bischoff. I believe it's from 1952. It's South Korea during the Korean War. There was actually two of them in the auction, and I really preferred the other one, but the other one was the second lot, and I didn't know if I would get it. This is actually something that I picked up at the Portobello Market, which is when the Chinese artists, before they make their scroll, they actually do like a little, kind of like a rough sketch. And the rough sketch that you see here is just depicting what the final actually artwork will look like. The other photograph that you see up there is an artist by the name of Ophir Barak. I came across him during COVID times when we were all at home and maybe we didn't really know what to do with ourselves. I started to research black and white photography, street photography, and I came across him, and he does a lot of photography. He's a Jewish photographer, and he photographs in the Mea Shearim, which is the area where most of the Hasidic population is, and he really kind of does Jewish street photography. And it's about religion and community together and how they mix. And I think that his work is really, really beautiful. This over here in the hallway is actually one of my favorite pieces in the house. This is a 17th century Burmese Buddha, all covered in 24 karat gold in teak wood. And I purchased this from a dealer in, I believe, Amsterdam, who is the largest dealer of museum quality antique Buddhas, if I'm not mistaken, in the world. I think that he's really, really, really beautiful. He's traveled with me around the world, and I thought, I think that this is a real Jacques Cocteau. This is a rental, and I of course don't know and didn't know how long I will be in Paris, so I thought the most intelligent thing was to rent a place. And one of the things that I knew that I wanted was, I always kind of say a white box, because I think that when you live in a rental and you have something that's white and clean and simple, you have the opportunity to kind of make it your own. So I was very fortunate because my neighbor next door told me that the person who lived here before me, once they lived here for about 20 years, and when they left, the owners did a renovation. So they renovated the kitchen and the bathrooms. So I spoke to the owners and I said, listen, the kitchen is wonderful, but I want to do something. I just want to add a white top, a white sink, and I want to make sure that the sink goes in the center of the window because it was a bit off center and it really bothered me. And they were a little bit unsure about me doing this, but I told them, believe me, it will look wonderful. So honestly speaking, I went to IKEA and I got a very nice simple white top, white sink, and I changed the kitchen a little bit, as you'll see when we walk through. Okay, now let's go into the little kitchen area, which I've been really, really fortunate because as small as the kitchen actually is, I've been able to furnish it, which is quite nice. This is actually a 30-year love affair with this chair. This is the Mies van der Rohe MR10 chair in wicker. It's a funny story because this is a chair that I've loved ever since I've been a really young boy. And in London, there was a dealer who I know in Notting Hill who I purchased some other things from, and he had it in his showroom, and it was just, he just had one, and he told me that he was just selling a single chair, and I thought, what am I going to do with this chair? Because realistically, it's really, for me, this is a dining chair. It doesn't really work as many other things but a dining chair, but I thought, even though I don't need this chair, and I have no use for it because I have dining chairs, I have to buy it. So I said to him, whatever it is, I'm going to take it home with me. So it has come home with me, and I'm very happy to have it. Over here is just a bar. I like when friends come over and family come over. I don't like formal dining or formal. I don't like anything too formal. I like a house and a situation and the environment to be really relaxed. So I think it's nice if you put the glasses over here, someone can come and they can make themselves a drink. As I mentioned to you before, I'm a serial cutter, and I found these branches actually one night coming after work, and I just cut them off, and I thought that they were super beautiful. I think it's nice when you mix kind of things together. I like white kitchens because I'm not a minimalist, and I like stuff, and I'm always buying things. And I think that when you have a white background and you put your objects on a white background, the subtleness of the white background really makes the object stand out. So I love the idea of mixing the texture. So you have the white countertop, of course, with the wood, with the white ceramics. I love that juxtaposition of the materials together. I think that one of the most important things for me in a room is the lighting. I think that if you have really good lighting, you can forgive a lot of your errors. So instead of just having, this is a rental, so of course they have the overhead lighting, which I'm not a fan of and doesn't have a dimmer. I like the fact of putting some lighting in the room just to accentuate some of the areas and make it a little bit more moody. So one of the things I really like about a small room is to have a really large piece of artwork. I think it makes the room look more interesting. Some people kind of think that if the room is small, it warrants small art. I think it's actually the contrary. This is actually something that I made. There's actually two of them. I have the other one in the other room. I was home on the weekends in London, and I wanted to pass some time just to relax and kind of calm my mind a little bit. So I love abstract art, and I wanted something with texture, and I wanted something in the colors that I love. I think black in a room is always important. I don't usually buy many black things, but I think it's nice to have a little bit of black. So I combined everything that I loved, and I made a series of these two, and I would like to make a third one, but this one I've hung in here. What I would really like to do is I want to make a black tray frame around it. I think that would frame it quite nicely, but haven't gotten to that yet. Over here we have a mix of some objects that are quite interesting. This is an African Tutsi basket with some plain canisters from Crate & Barrel, which is my absolute favorite American retailer. I think that in Europe we don't have many of these really nicely designed, reasonably priced, beautiful things. these kinds of retailers. So every time I go back to America, I always go to Crate & Barrel, and I always have a luggage full of stuff that I bring back. That's where these are from. These are some Ralph Lauren lamps. I bought 2 of them. These apothecary lamps. I got them off of Etsy, I believe. And this has quite an interesting story. My partner and I were in Nepal, always looking for an antique shop, and found one shop that had a bunch of little things here and there. And there were 2 of these. There was a male and a female. I think that this is the female one. And I picked up the female one, and friend picked up the male version. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it has any value, but I think his face is really quite interesting. Over here, once again, it's just a mixture of things that I love and that I use. This has a funny kind of story. When I was in India, we were in the car, and I'm always looking for the side of the road. There's always these merchants that are selling things. And I saw this person selling all these marble things. Marble bowls, marble dishes, marble trays, marble vases. And I said to the driver who was taking us from one place to the other, I said, "Stop the car." And we got out of the car, and I came back with a suitcase that cost more money to ship the suitcase than what I spent for these objects in India. And this is a really, really wonderful mortar and pestle, so it always reminds me of that trip and stopping the car. This is a jug that I got from a store about 30 years ago that they no longer have in America in New York called Ad Hoc Software. And they used to sell pottery from all kinds of designers, and I really, really loved it. And this is actually something that I really treasure because a dear friend of mine gave this to me when I was home to see her a few weeks ago, and it was a little present that she told me she was in a restaurant, and she picked this up from a ceramist that was in the shop. The restaurant had a shop, and she bought it for me, and she said you could put tea bags, or she said she's a woman of very good taste and style, and she said, "I think you should use it in the kitchen." So I put it in the kitchen here with my little matcha stirrer. This is a basket that I picked up in Milan. I know that it's from Tibet. It's probably antique. I picked it up in a clothing shop, and I don't believe that the person in the shop really even wanted to sell it, and I asked him if he would, and there was about 3 of them. I bought it about 25 years ago, and he did sell it to me, and I've kept it to this day. And inside I have all of my powders that I use for my shakes and everything like that. So it's a wonderful way of kind of concealing the ugly stuff in something really, really beautiful. So I have many obsessions, and one of them is silverware. I started collecting silverware many, many years ago, and I'm very, very lucky in this apartment to have 2 drawers in the kitchen. So the 2 drawers are dedicated to silverware. I have something that's very dear to my heart. My mother gifted my sister and I a present many, many, many years ago when we were very, very young. And my sister got some windows for her house, and I was too young to have a house or need windows. And I told my mother I wanted silverware, and I think that they should have known that there was a problem at maybe 14 years old when I asked for silverware. And they couldn't afford to buy me all of them. They bought me about a place setting of 6. And they've discontinued it, but it's something that I love, and it makes me think of my mom and dad every time I use it. It's just from Sasaki. It's called Double Helix, and I think that the organicness is really, really beautiful. And it makes me think of them and the present that they gave me when I was a really young boy. And I was actually able to collect it on replacements from the ones that they no longer, because they no longer produce it. And in this drawer, so these are my go-to, and normally you would think that, does one person use all of this silverware every day? But I love to cook, and I come home from work every day, and I cook myself a nice dinner or a nice lunch on Saturday, and I pick my silverware every day, and I try to treat myself well. Okay, let's go into the living area. So when I first walked in, I could imagine what it would actually look like. They were very, very well proportioned rooms. They're rectangular. One is square, one is rectangular, so it would be easy to place the furniture, and they were very, very spacious. So this is kind of the part of the flat that I think really, really sold me. The coffee table here is something that I got in America from France & Sons. Like a lot of things that I had them shipped over many, many years ago. It's a really nice marble table. I love the fact that it looks really, really sturdy and clean, and you could put all these kinds of objects on them without it being too busy. I like the fact that it's just kind of a plain basic platform. And then on top I have a mix of objects like this, which is a Han Dynasty, which I think is 200 BC to 200 AD. Han Dynasty, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the longest dynasties, I think. And this is a burial figure. And the myth says that these figures were actually buried in the graves with the dead, and they actually had wooden arms on them, which obviously, because they're thousands of years old, no longer have the arms. They have not survived, but they're terracotta burial figures. I actually have another one on the floor there that broke in a suitcase that I have to have fixed. Another thing that I have here is something from, once again, a trip. I bought these in Cambodia, and these are little Bethel containers. I have all of my antique Buddha hands. This one is from Cambodia. I believe it's 12th or 13th century. This one I got at an auction, and I believe it's a good piece because I was told that when it has the little sticker on it, it means it comes from a very good collection. This is another one that I picked up in travels, and that one has very sentimental meaning to me because a very special person gave that to me who is no longer with us today, and he purchased it in a store called Jacques Carcanagus, which was a Asian antiques dealer in America on Green Street, and he's no longer with us, nor is the store, but that piece is very, very important to me, and I think that that's what started my collection with loving the hand of the Buddha. This is a Ralph Lauren lamp. I think I said it to you before. I love vintage lamps, but I think that one of the things that Ralph Lauren does successfully are lamps. And this is an equilibrium lamp. And I love the way that you can make it higher, make it lower. You can adjust it. You can change the shape of it. I think it's super beautiful, and I love the chrome finish. And I love the way you have all of these antiques with their patina and everything on it, and you pair it with something so sleek and so modern like this. Behind all of this is my bookshelves. The bookshelves are actually from IKEA. My friend Stephanie and I have a joke about them because she has them as well, and they do not make them anymore. And every time I move and change countries, I say they're absolutely never going to make it through another move. But they're still here. They're a bit beaten up. They're still here. But I love the proportion of them because they're very thick and hefty and wide. And because I don't live in my own home and have the opportunity of creating built-in bookshelves, this for me creates the idea of a built-in because it's all white and you could really kind of focus on the books. One of the things for me that really makes a home warm and cozy is books. And I have been buying and collecting books since I've been about yay big. And I can't stop, and I probably never will stop. And there's books all over this house. But this is basically the master space where I keep all of them. And they house all of my interests, which are fashion and interiors and art and architecture and architects and photography. So it's really nice on a nice weekend day or after work when you're sitting at home and you have a little bit of music. Every time I just lay on the couch and I look over here and I think, what do I want to have a look at today? And every time you look at them and read them and open them up, you always discover something new. And no, I have not read all of them, every single page of all of them. But it's really wonderful because I think that every time you pick it up, you see something new. There's books all over this house, and I like tables that are open on the bottom because it means that I can house more books because I'm kind of running out of space for them. But like I said, it's not something that I think that I will ever stop buying. Over here are some chairs that I picked up in the market of Porty-Clignancourt. I purchased them from a dealer. My latest thing now is I like to buy chairs in the market and redo them on a Saturday afternoon, take all of the old fabric off, take all of the old nails off, and renovate them and restore them. So you see they have all the staples here. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm on my way to getting there. Next to this chair is a small little coffee table. I bought this at Zara Home. Vincent van Dyson did a collaboration with Zara Home, and the pieces are so beautiful, and I love the juxtaposition between the two. The travertine is beautiful with the brushed steel, which is beautiful with the porcelain. I think to spend a lot of money on something and buy something really extravagant and really original is really wonderful. But I think that if you have too much of that, it becomes stuffy and museum-like. And I think that if you have too much of things like this, like my IKEA bookshelves, the house can become soulless. So I think that the combination of the high and low is really interesting. And I have no problem mixing something that I've spent a lot of money on, that I've saved a lot of money for, to buy and really am happy that I own it next to something that cost me a small amount of money. I think that high and low makes a house really, really interesting and desirable. Back here, this is a Japanese tanzu chest. This is one of the first grown-up pieces of furniture that I ever bought. I got this from one of the largest dealers of Asian, I should say, antique furniture in America, and I had it shipped. This is Meiji period, so it's about 1870, and the story of the tanzu, which is very, very interesting, is that this is made of kiri wood, so it's extremely, extremely light. If this piece of furniture is empty, you can actually just take your finger and push it like this. It weighs nothing. So these pieces of furniture were actually made for quite a bit of things. They were used to store kimonos, they were used for documentation, to put official documents in them, they were used to store even things like samurais. So this piece of furniture houses lots of things for me, like glasses. I'm a serial collector of glasses, and I love to buy linens and all of these kinds of things. So it sources all of my even things like, you know, I think it's really nice in the house to I think it's nice to change things around, and you can't have everything out all the time. So it's about moving things and changing things and editing things and taking things in and out. So this is really great because it stores lots of the things that I'm not using, together with my linens, which I'm a little bit obsessed about. And I always think it's nice that when people come over, I love colors of nature. So I think it's really wonderful. In the autumn, you have a certain color. You have greens, and you have this beautiful burnt orange. These have a funny little story, because when I went to Cambodia just about 6 months ago with my partner, I said, oh, I love these. And I said, always remember the hotel that we stayed in. And every day I went, I took one at breakfast, and then I felt so guilty afterwards. I told the person in the breakfast room that I have about 7 of them, one for each day that we were there, and he told me I can absolutely keep them, so it's kind of a guiltless pleasure. On top of this piece, this is one of the things where I think if someone said, if the house was burning down, what would you take with you? It would probably be this. This is probably 40s, 50s. The Louvre used to make all of these sculptures for the works of art, the masterpieces that they have in the museum. And in that famous house that I told you about when I was young, that I fell in love with, they had the head of Hermes, which obviously was the Greek god of beauty. And these things you can find every once in a while in the Paris flea market. You used to be able to find more of them years ago. Now you find them, they're less frequent and extremely expensive. And you find them in green, you find them in terracotta, you find them in lots of colors, but I wanted it in black. Because I remember as a young boy, I saw it in black, and it has been with me, that image of this head has been with me for about 30 years. So I can tell you that this has been a 30-year search. And I kept looking for it on eBay, on Etsy, on every kind of website platform that you can ever imagine. And just about 3 years ago, I found it from a dealer in France. And I was living in the United Kingdom. This one, black, vintage, exactly what I wanted. And he told me that he wasn't going to ship it to me in London. So we went back and forth a little bit, and I told him, look, I've been looking for this for 30 years. I will pay anything that you want to ship it to me. So finally he did. And then my next fear was that it wasn't going to arrive in one piece. But he wrapped it very, very well, and I am very, very, very happy to have it. This is something that I picked up when I was young in college, in FIT, in a store on Fifth Avenue called Takashimaya, which is no longer there. And they made the most beautiful Japanese ceramics. And I think the texture and the shape of it is so beautiful. And my father broke it. And he glued it back together with me and for me, and he didn't tell me that he broke it. And then when I brought it here, because it was in my parents' house, I said to him, "You did indeed break it," and he said that he did. But to be honest with you, I actually like the fact that he broke it, because I'll always remember that he put it together for me. The lamps on this piece is Thomas O'Brien. Thomas O'Brien is one of my favorite interior designers. I've loved him since I was a little boy, and he did a collaboration with Visual Comfort, and This is one of his, as well as the apothecary lamps that are in this room. And behind here is just an Academy drawing, a French Academy drawing. It's stamped 1919. I picked it up at the Paris flea market, and I loved the expression that the little boy had and the way that he's not exactly looking at you, but he's looking away from you. I thought was really, really serene. And I just had it framed with this really, really minimal silver frame at the framer, and it sits on top of this piece, and I love the juxtaposition together. One of the really beautiful architectural details of this flat is this really large fireplace. The fireplace is obviously a wonderful location where you can put beautiful things, change it up, add height. I love the combination of the books with the lucite, with the different kind of pictures. It just makes an interesting kind of setting. This is an antique Indian sculpture with some Ophir Barak photography that I told you about before, whom I love. This is a 16th century sketch that I found in the market in Victoria. In London, every couple of months they do an antiques market, and I found this original 16th century sketch of these hands, which I told you like the Buddha. And one of the most interesting things on the mantle is my collection of these coils. You may know what they are by looking at them, but the story of this is that in the border of Thailand, between Thailand and Myanmar, there is a group of women called the Karini women, the Paduang women, I believe it's called. And these women are Burmese refugees, and they don't have a Thai ID. So unfortunately, these women are not they don't have access to education. So I believe their education, the translation of their education in Western world would be like 5th or 6th grade. Because they don't have the right to an education, they obviously don't have the right to better themselves. And because they don't have Thai ID, they have very limited access to both water and electricity. So these poor women have been reduced to actually being a tourist attraction for tourists that go to this village and pay them to actually look at them with all of their gear or their jewelry on their adornment. So as I said about high and low, you have all of this history. Underneath it is a basket that I got from Zara Home, one of my favorite shops. It's paired next to a Harry Bertoia bird chair. I believe it's the bird chair covered in this beautiful wool. Harry Bertoia was an Italian-American architect and designer and sculptor. Not an architect, I believe he was a sculptor. And Florence Knoll commissioned him to do a line of furniture, and this is one of the things that he did. These are some Thomas O'Brien lamps. Next to the chair is a Ashanti stool. The Ashanti tribe believed that a golden stool fell down from the heaven and what fell onto the lap of the king, and it became a sacred object for them. I love the fact of using this kind of thing as a little end table with some books on it, so if someone sits in this chair, which is extremely comfortable, they can put a glass on here, a glass of wine, whatever they're eating, and it's really, really comfortable. So it's nice to use it instead of a stool as an end table. Next to them are some 19th century Indian pillars from Gujarat. These are teak wood, and they're extremely heavy and extremely beautiful, I think. It's really wonderful in a room to have an architectural element. I think it's nice to bring your eye up to the ceiling. I always wanted some pillars. I found these from a dealer in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, I had to cut them because the pillars were too tall for my English flat, but they told me that the slice is so perfect that one day with a really good restorer, I could get it on the top and I can put them back together and bring them back to their original beauty. So the couch I actually had made by my upholsterer in Italy, who I sing his praises every time I need something done because he is extremely talented. And I gave him a sketch of what I wanted, and he made this for me. I knew that wherever I lived, I wouldn't be in a place that was extremely large, so I wanted to reduce the width a little bit, and it had to be not too long. I wish it could be longer, but I knew that if the couch were too large, I wouldn't be able to fit anything else. So I gave the sketch to Ennio. I should have made it in a white linen. One day I know that he's going to make a white linen sofa for me, which I would really, really love. But he made this for me, and he is incredibly talented. And every time I move countries or flats or something, I always take a picture for him and I show him what it looks like in the new place. I love eucalyptus. It's probably maybe the only thing in the house, the green in the house that you see today, that I actually purchased from the florist downstairs. I love the scent of it. It makes me feel good when I'm laying down reading a book, having a cup of tea. And what I usually do is when it starts to dry out, I tie it up and I put it in the shower. So when you take a shower, the humidity of the shower brings out the scent and it fills up the room really, really lovely. Behind this is another lamp from Thomas O'Brien. I told you I'm a big fan of his. This is the other chair that is the sister to the 19th century French chair that I got at the market that I'm still in the process of taking care of, and one day I'll bring it back to its original beauty when I put the binding on it. I love the juxtaposition of this antique chair with this Sarnian little stool. I got this off of Le Bon Coin, which is the French eBay basically. And it was in this horrible green fabric and it was all ruined. And I put it, I sewed this really, really beautiful cow printed kind of caviar print leather. And I put that on there. These are just some architectural drawings that I found at the market that I decided to frame in my crate and barrel frames that I picked up the last time I was home. This is a Ralph Lauren magazine bucket, which is so beautiful. And I had a problem with a lamp at Ralph Lauren, and they gave me a credit to the shop, and I wasn't sure what to buy, and because I wanted everything. And I thought, I'll just take this because it's really, really, really wonderfully done. And I think after I put the books in it, I was going to put a plant inside of it. Moving over here, this is a antique French chair that I found at the Porte des Vins market one morning. And this is 18th century. And it was a rainy day. It was horrible. It was early in the morning and the vendors were already starting to leave because the weather was awful. And I asked the gentleman how much it was and he said, "You want that?" And I said, "I want this." And he said, "You could have it for 30 euros. So I put it on my bicycle. I brought it home and it was dreadful. But I loved the color. I loved the story that it had to tell. I always wonder if this chair was for a child or what it was because the legs are so short. I don't know why. But I took it all apart and I covered it with this really, really beautiful kind of cream colored Napa leather. And I put all of the little nail heads in. And I think it's really, really beautiful. The colors together look really, really, really wonderful. I was cleaning out my mother and father's house a couple of months ago for something that we had to do. And I came across this sketch, and it was a sketch that I did in the university. And I rolled it up and I brought it home with me and I framed it in this frame. I was in London with a friend of mine and we walked past this antique shop and this frame was about 20 pounds or something and I said, "I want it." And I couldn't get it back to back to Paris with me. So my friend and I, we taped it to the luggage and I said to her, "You'll see what I do with this frame." And I sanded it and I lacquered it and I didn't know what to do with it. It was behind the door in the spare bedroom for about a year. And I found this sketch that I did at school and I thought that that was the perfect thing to put in this frame. Once again, under the table, it houses more of my book obsession. So this is a perfect place to get some more books. And on top of here are some iwi statues. The Iwi tribe, I believe, is the largest tribe in the Togo area. And they believe that giving birth to twins is like a religious omen, it's a happy omen. And apparently they have to dress all of the twins the same, and they have to be dressed the same until they're about 12 years old. If one of the twin dies, it is considered, they have to make a statue of one of the twins and they bring it to the voodoo doctor to kind of activate its spiritual power. So one of the really wonderful features of this flat is that both in the living room and in the dining area, you have these wonderful windows from the floor to ceiling that go out on the balcony. And you have a beautiful view of the 6th in Paris. The view out here is really, really spectacular. and you can see all of Rue de Vaugirard, which is the longest street, if I'm not mistaken, here in Paris. And the balcony in this flat goes all the way around. So the flat is right on the corner of the building. So it's really, really wonderful because you get the west view and then you also get the north view. And one of the things that I love is right in the area where you have the window, the balcony is just a little bit wider with a very small table. You can just have the perfect dining space for 2 people. When I was young, I always knew that I wanted to do something in the design field, although I didn't know what it was. And it's a little bit of a funny story because after taking some normal everyday courses here and there, my mother and father said to me, you kind of have to decide what it is that you want to do because you obviously just can't go to the university endless taking random courses. And the curriculum book of the college, I brought it home and we looked through it together. It was in alphabetical order, and the first thing was accessories design, so AC. And I just said to my mother and father, I'll just do that. Because realistically, I knew that I wanted to do something, but I wasn't sure what it was. So maybe some people think that there's some kind of glamorous beginning to my career, but actually that's how it started. And then I had this desire to move to Italy, which everyone thought was absolutely crazy. And I remember I told my boss that I was going to go, and I saved enough money to live in a hotel for a couple of months in Italy, in Florence. And I went and I found a job, and I thought that it would be something that I would do for about a year, get this experience, get my feet wet, and then I would go back home. And actually that was maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And in all of those years, I've had the opportunity of living between London and Italy and different places, and now here in France. So with a lot of hard work and determination and a little bit of luck, I've been able to live in these wonderful places. So right off the living room, the dining area is really wonderful because it's the perfect size room to seat a table for 6 people, which realistically, I don't want more than 6 people at dinner anyway. I have a walnut table from Ligny Rosé, coupled with these MR50 Mies van der Rohe Bruneau chairs. They have a super interesting story. The Bruneau chair was designed by Mies van der Rohe and his colleague Lily Riesch in 1930. And they designed it for the Villa Tungigant, I believe it's pronounced. And the villa was designed for 2 German Jews called Fritz and Gretel. Unfortunately, they had to flee the Czech Republic and go to Switzerland because the Nazis had invaded. Fritz and Gretel survived the death camp, but from what I read, they were never able to go back to their villa that Mies actually created for them. The villa today is a museum, which I have not been able to go to yet, but I would love to when I get a chance. And this chair was designed exactly for them in that home. They're very beautiful chairs, and I've always loved them, and I bought them from Cherish many years ago. However, I've decided that they are as beautiful, they are as heavy as they are beautiful. And they're not the most practical when you have people over and they have to ask you to actually get them out and inside of the table because they're so heavy. So I think I'm going to swap these for my ever favorite MR10 chair, which I think is probably a better dining chair. But maybe I'll keep one for a desk one day. I like to couple these chairs together with something different. I think it's always more interesting in a dining area if you have more than one chair that are not all the same. These are 18th century Gustavian chairs. They're Swedish. I think they're super beautiful, and they're signed by a cabinet maker, so I know that they're of good stock, so to speak. And I've covered them myself because, as I told you, I'm a little bit of a frustrated upholsterer with this really, really beautiful kind of cotton linen fabric, and I've made these little ties at the back just to give them a little bit of an extra addition. Next to these chairs are 2 white columns that I had made in the United Kingdom, and they house 2 Ralph Lauren lamps that have been discontinued. These lamps have a very interesting story. I always wanted them, and to be honest with you, they were above the budget of what I wanted to spend on a lamp, and they've also been discontinued. So a friend of mine, I found them on eBay, and they were in the United Kingdom, and I spoke to the gentleman and we organized a price, etc., etc. They did not have the shades on them, and he told me, we will meet in London and he will give me the lamps. Well, I arrived in London, I organized a weekend just to go to pick up these lamps, and the gentleman told me that instead of meeting each other on Saturday afternoon, we would meet each other on Saturday night at the Victoria bus station. As you can imagine, bus station, train station at night, they're not generally the safest place in the world. He organized for us to meet him there at 10:30 p.m. So I said to my friend Diego, I'm going to meet this strange man who's going to give me these lamps from eBay at the Victoria coach station, which is worse than the train station, at 10:30 at night. I'm not going alone. So we get there. We arrived there, and this man came and he had this luggage and he brings us these lamps, and they weren't the cheapest purchase that I've ever made, and there were all of these people outside of the train station. It wasn't the safest moment of my life. I got them back to Paris. They are so heavy that the luggage broke at the Gare du Nord station, so I had to carry them one by one to the end of the station. It was a disaster, but they've made it here, and I'm very happy to have them. And every time I look at them, I remember what we actually went through to get them here. Next to these lamps is a Charles X walnut console. This comes from a dealer called Lee Wright in the United Kingdom. Lee sells beautiful, beautiful, beautiful French and English antiques, and I got it from him. Like I said, it's walnut, and the drawer is really lovely because it gets to hold all of kinds of things for serving and candles and placemats and everything. This is an object that I found about maybe 35 years ago when I was a young boy in a little shop in Nyack, New York, near where I grew up. It's a metal or copper, I don't know what it is, alligator, and he's been with me ever since, and I love him. He's one of my favorite objects. Here are some canisters that I picked up in India. This is antique, I believe he's Japanese Buddha that I got from a dealer here in France. Black and white photography. I told you that I'm a lover of black and white photography. This is a Stettner photograph, if I'm not mistaken, just like the one in the living room. The one in the living room is from the Penn Station series that Louis Stettner did in New York. This is the Wailing Wall. I believe it's French. Underneath is just some books, some antique Chinese pottery, and this is something very interesting. This is from the Mob tribe in Africa, and when they would get married, they would give this to them as a gift, or they would use them as currency, and they would actually put them as anklets, and they would wear them after they got married. And I have a whole collection of these, and here I just have about one of them. Over here is a lamp from Visual Comfort. This is a piece that I picked up in the market at Porte des Vanves because I go every Saturday, and I just fell in love with him. Underneath this is I believe it's 18th century, once again, sketch of a hand. I love hands. I got that from a dealer here in France. This apartment had these kind of odd shelving units, and I didn't know what to do with them, and I was actually going to ask the owner, can we cover the shelving units? I hate them. But I actually got them to work for me, and it's nice to have this little niche in the side of the room where you can put books and you can put objects of things that you find. These are things that I got in India. These are the tops of some Tutsi baskets, the African Tutsi baskets. Once again, black and white photography that I love. Song Dynasty pottery. I believe that this is a piece of lava. This is interesting. This is a opium scale, an antique opium scale. In the corner here is a Warren Planter side chair, and this is coupled with a little silver pedestal that I picked up from, once again, Zara Home. I bought two of them because I thought that they're so beautiful. They're so lovely because the top is round and the bottom is square. The proportion is lovely. You can move them around in the house. You can use them at side tables. You can use them as a pedestal for a sculpture. You can use them as a little table to put a drink on. I really, really love them, and I think they're super versatile. And on top of that, I have some pottery that I got in London, and together with this piece, which is, as I mentioned before, Thomas O'Brien is one of my favorite designers, and he has a shop in Soho called Arrow. And I was a young boy and I couldn't afford anything in the shop. And I remember being in the university and I picked this up, and it still has the little sticker on the bottom that I don't think that they use those stickers anymore. And this has been with me for about 35 years. And I don't believe that they make this piece anymore, but it just reminds me of my days in New York and being a young boy and, you know, falling in love with home furnishings and pottery. And I keep it with me to this day because it's really something that reminds me of my youth and my university years. Above the table here is a photograph from Michel Comte. He's a photographer that I do really love. And in the 90s, he did a series with Mike Tyson with the dove. And the contrast between Mike Tyson, the color of his skin, the color of the bird is so beautiful. And I picked this up at an auction, and I had it framed in this silver frame. And one day, there's about 6 or 7 of them. They didn't have the one that I really wanted in the auction, which is Mike Tyson kissing the beak of the bird. But maybe one day I'll find it and I'll be able to put it together with that one. I always knew that I loved interior design. And when I was a young boy, my mother and father were very easygoing, and they allowed me to paint the walls in my room and move the furniture around and do all sorts of things. And I knew that it's always something that I enjoyed. And I actually knew as a young boy that I thought that I was actually good at it. I understood the space and I understood the room, but I knew absolutely nothing about it, and come from a place where nor did my mother and father. And my mom and her twin sister, in order to help my father and my uncle help their husbands pay for our schooling, because it was very important to them, they started a very small little business cleaning houses. And when I was young, I would go with my mother and my aunt every once in a while, maybe during the summer, and I would help them do their house cleaning and things like that and give them a hand with little things. I was quite young. And they had a client that they worked for who lived in the most beautiful contemporary Horace Gifford-like home, white cedar, in and out, flat roofs, wall-to-ceiling windows. And I remember walking in and thinking, this is the world that I want to be a part of. It was so beautifully done. She was actually an interior designer and is a woman of great taste and sophistication. And I remember helping them cleaning and doing things, but walking around and looking and taking it in and absorbing, knowing that this is something that just felt right to me and just intrinsic. And I think that she, to this day, who is a dear friend of mine, has really had something to do on me, I believe, and molding my taste and molding what I like, kind of subconsciously, because as a young boy, that's what I saw, and I kind of deemed that as what good taste was. And I think that to this day, when I come home and I pick something out and I shop and I buy something, I think that she's kind of molded who I am and what my taste is. Now that we've seen the living room and the dining room, let's go take a look at the rest of the house. So this hallway leads right into the bedroom, which is the master bedroom, well, the bedroom that I selected for the obvious reason that you have the double facing with the double window, which is really beautiful. And in the bedroom, we have the Paul, I believe it's called Paul Scherholm chair. It's the PK 20 chair in woven wicker. Paul Scherholm is a Danish architect and designer, and this is one of my favorite pieces from him, and I'm very happy to have purchased it a couple of years ago. Behind it is a Sarnian marble, small Sarnian marble table. This is a Senufo African stool. The Senufo tribe carved these stools with these legs like this from one complete piece of wood. So the larger they are, the more difficult they are to find, because that means the tree has to be at least this large. This I got in the antiques market in New York when I was maybe about 20 or something, and it's been with me to this day. On top of this is a vintage 1960s Florence Knoll lamp. Florence Knoll produced these in the 50s and the 60s, and I always wanted one. These are the hard ones to find because they're larger, and I picked it up. There was an antiques market right here down the street from me one Saturday morning, and I was going to do my food shopping, and I came across this, and I knew that he had to come home with me. On top is just some odds and ends that I found at markets, some dishes and bowls. I love ceramics. This, my mom, very sentimental to me. My mom used to work in a nursing home when she was younger, and she bought that for me in the gift shop, and I just keep it there because I remember her giving that to me. Over here, we have a 19th century mahogany semanier, which is 7 for the 7 days in French, so 7 drawers. This comes from a dealer called Lee Wright Antiques in London. I love furniture that has clawed feet. It's a detail that I'm a sucker for every time I see it. And when I saw this piece, I really had to have it. These are some antique constellation starry nights that I found. I love them because they're the months of my parents' birth, so I picked those up with those kind of tiger's eyed frame. Are really, really beautiful. This next to this, I love next to the antiqueness, the patina of the mahogany is just this really sleek white pedestal. This is a 12th century Cambodian sandstone head that I bought from an auction, which is really beautiful, together with some bugs. Here in the 6th, there is that famous shop called Durol, and it's taxidermy shop, and they sell all sorts of bugs and skeletons and animal skulls. It's fascinating shop, and I picked these bugs up from there. Once again, there's an Asante stool paired up with a Florence Knoll bench. Once again, I love the antiquity with the modernity. My bed is a Pottery Barn bed that I got in America. It's funny because I've been sleeping in beds in Europe for many, many years, and then I ordered this and I had it shipped here to Europe, and I forgot that American beds are actually shorter than European beds, so it's too short for me. But I do love it because I love the texture of an upholstered bed. I think it gives warmth to the room. Next to my bed are some antique prints that I got at the Portobello Market, coupled with some lighting. This is a Sarnian side table. Once again, I love the juxtaposition. I got this in an auction in Italy, and it came with a stand, and I hated the stand, so I took it off and I just laid it down here. Some pottery from London, from, I think her name is Jo Pankhurst, if I'm not incorrect. They're all broken. They've broken a million times. I've glued them back together. It's part of the story, and I'm really happy to have them here with me. This is a very interesting piece. I got this from a dealer in London, and this is from in Southeast Asia. If you can imagine the monastery in Southeast Asia, on the top of the buildings, they have this finial. And this is basically, if you imagine the monastery, they have these pieces like this. This is a 19th century finial from the monastery in Southeast Asia. The myth is that they call this the Garuda, which is the half man, half bird being. So if you look at it, it actually does look a bit like a bird. And it's a funny story because I got this off of a dealer in London who I know very well. He actually was not in the shop, the owner. His daughter was there, and she knows me as well. And I asked her the price of this, and the price that she gave me, I am sure, was not the price that he would have given me. So I thought, now is the moment that I have to purchase this. So I did. And I have always loved this. And we went to Cambodia about 6 or 8 months ago, and in Cambodia there is, in Bangkok, pardon me, there is a wonderful antiques mall, and you don't come across these very often, especially at this size. And the antiques mall only had a few of them, and when I say antiques mall, I mean a proper mall, like store after store after store, 3-4 levels. And in all of those shops, we only found about 3 or 4 of these. So I am actually very happy to have gotten my hands on it, and for the price that I did. This is a 19th century Louis Philippe French mirror. Louis Philippe is one of my favorite times in the French history. Louis Philippe, the lines were always so simple and so beautiful. I always wanted a Louis Philippe mirror. I always wanted it large. I wanted it with the original mirror, and I didn't want the flower print. I wanted the one with the lines. So this is a recent purchase, and I just came across it, and I thought, this should be mine. And I bargained, and finally they gave it to me. This is a 19th century Chinese horseback chair. So I picked this up from an antique shop in London, which I always loved this kind of chair. And I had my upholsterer in Italy, Ennio, make me a beautiful seat cover. And I love, once again, the juxtaposition of that beautiful white fabric together with the wood of the chair. On top of the chair is a photo from Ophir Barak, which I've spoken to you about before, which I'm a collector of his. And right above here is an antique Japanese, I believe it's Japanese, horse print. I think that designing a home, taking care of your home, curating your home is different than working in shoes. Designing shoes is, for me, a business, and it's about obviously designing beautiful shoes, of course, first and foremost, but it's about what the market needs and what the company needs and what the requests are. So I think that the process is a little bit more rigid and structured, even though at the end of the day, the product has to be beautiful. I think that when I come home and I buy something or I select something, there really is no rules. It's really just what I like. And I think that all of this is doesn't really have a formula to it. It's really just a point of view, and it all comes together. So I think the difference for me is that this is just about freedom and doing what you want to do, whereas when you go into the office and you design shoes or a collection of shoes for a company, it's a little bit more rigid and the parameters are a little bit more outlined, whereas going to a market and picking something out that you like is really just what your point of view is and what you like without kind of having to answer to anyone else. Another great feature that this flat offers is the fact that the bathroom is quite large. Even though it's very slim, you have the opportunity to furnish it. So I really was able to put a mixture of items in the bathroom that make it more interesting. Obviously, this is a rental, so I can't do a renovation. So what I thought the best thing to do was to furnish it and make it seem seamless with the rest of the house. These are some baskets that I picked up from Zara Home, which I think is a destination that everyone should go to find beautiful, simple things for the home. This is a painting that was once in the bedroom and I just moved it a couple of weeks ago. Some people think it's a little bit disturbing. I find him very interesting. I got him on a rainy day at the Porte de Vannes market, and I thought it was beautifully done. I love the shadow, I love the size, I love the scale of it, and I think it kind of works in here. On top of the counter here is just a mixture of things. This is a lamp that I found at the market. It's, I think, 70s French. And the beautiful thing about it is it has the original shade on it, which I thought was really quite wonderful. These are some Indian canisters that I found on a trip in India. These marble canisters that are beautiful, and they house things that I use every day in the morning. Some antique French ware, just with some twigs and things that I've been able to pick up on the street. This is a funny little story. I was at the flea market in France at an antique dealer, and he had a very, very beautiful sketch of a leg of a man. It was 18th century, and the price was extortionate. And I told my partner, I took a picture and I said, I would really love to buy this. And a couple of weeks later, he came home with this, which is really, really sweet. It's obviously different than what I saw in the market, but I'm very happy to have it. And every time I look at it, I remember the reason why it was purchased was to kind of substitute the fact of that thing that I really wanted to buy, but now I have this one. And maybe it's even better that I have that one because it brings me a really wonderful memory. These are just some finds that I got in the flea market, some sculptures and some lemons, some old lemons that I had in the kitchen that I hadn't eaten for a while, and they had dried out and they became really beautiful, so I thought that I would keep them there because they were really beautiful. This is a sketch that I did in a life drawing class, and I thought his face was so wonderful. It was the only good one that I actually did in the whole series, so I had it framed. And on top of that is a painting that I found at a flea market, and the whole painting was ruined. And I said to the dealer, or the person who was selling it, what is the price of that? And they gave me an amazing price because the only part that was good about it, that was salvageable, was that piece right here. So I took the whole painting apart, threw it away because it was relatively garbage, and I save the part that I really loved, which was these kind of folded hands like this. And I framed it in this Napoleon, this French antique Napoleon frame. And I think it looks super beautiful. And it kind of sparked me to do something where now I was thinking about if I could find paintings that aren't very nice and I could get an eye, or I could get the part of a shirt or a wrist or something. It could make an interesting kind of grouping of things. Above the toilet is some prints that I actually love that I purchased at the Portobello Market. They're prints of eggs, and I think their simplicity is so, so beautiful. I've been collecting those horse heads, and I put them in the bathroom there, and I think that they look really beautiful together with the simplicity of those antique egg prints. Once again here, it's a mixture of things that I love. Song Dynasty pottery, just some finds that I find in the flea market, some baskets. Once again, here's some Paul James pottery that I picked up in London. This is an African shell necklace that I got from a dealer called Tribal Space in London. They always do some pop-ups. And I think the most meaningful thing for me here are these two leaves. When my mother and father moved, when we moved them out of their house that I grew up in, the last day that they were moving, they left and went to Florida, and I stayed to handle the final move for them. I went outside and I cut these two leaves off, and I remember that these are the two trees that my father planted when we were really, really little kids. I believe one was when I was born, and one was when my sister and I were quite little. So I framed them, and you know, they're just something that will remind me of my childhood in the backyard, that we spent many good times together, that are really days gone by, but it's nice to have that memory of, you know, when you were younger and the house that you grew up in that, you know, is a chapter that's behind us, so to speak. I think that in decorating my home, as I said before, I really don't have any structure. I know what I like. And I think that, and you've heard other people say this, and I think it's true, that when you buy things or when you collect things and you have a point of view, sometimes it all just comes together. I don't like one period. I don't like one specific thing. I think that when you buy things that you like, when you mix periods, I love French antiques, I love Asian art, I love Asian antiques, I love the classics, I love, you know, the Mies van der Rohes of the world and all of these kinds of things. I think that when you mix periods and textures and design eras together, I think the home becomes more interesting. Other people have said this before, and I think it's true. I think that texture is really, really important, and it's one of the things that I love, because I think that in order to make a house beautiful, the tactile emotion has to be there. So, you know, wood and leather and marble and travertine and sleek finishes and rough finishes. And I think that when you put all of those things together, that's what makes a home really, really interesting. I'm not a person who really likes much color. I appreciate color. I work with color all day in the office. I like to come home, and I like the home to be quite neutral and tranquil. And I think that you can kind of get the color through the texture. So I prefer to mix all sorts of neutrals together. And I think that when you mix neutrals together, it makes it easier when you buy something, because when you buy something, you always know that it's going to work. For me, it's about mixing the elements of the things that I like. And when you do it with a point of view, for some reason, it all just comes together. So now that we've seen the bathroom, let's go into the second bedroom. I always wanted a flat whenever I move that has two bedrooms, because I like family to come and my friends to come. I don't want my friends to come to Paris and go in a hotel. It's nice to spend the time together, have the moments together, have the memories. So I have a second bedroom for everyone who comes here to visit. And I've been lucky to be able to furnish it in a very kind of elaborate way, because it is quite large. The bed is a very, very simple bed. It actually was the cheapest bed frame that I could find on Amazon, because I knew that I would just cover it. And I covered it with some, like I said, some really beautiful white linens. I got these at the Crate and Barrel, my favorite shop in America. I love the texture of them. And one thing that I did with the bed was I never knew what the right thing to do was with this bed because I had to make it a bit more interesting. And I was at the Paris flea market and I found this. And this is I think it's an architectural salvage piece from some brasserie or something like this. I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm making up the story that is more interesting than it really is. But this is probably late 18th century, early 19th century. The color was beautiful. The face was beautiful. I bought it, had no idea what I was supposed to do with it. And I brought it home. The man who I purchased from was very kind in delivering it because it's quite large and heavy. And I propped it up against the wall and I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I ever bought. And one night I was sleeping and I thought, it's going to be the headboard. So I covered it with some very, very basic white linen. I really should put some foam behind it and make it a little bit more elaborate, but for time's sake, I just put some white fabric in it and I made this the headboard, and I really realized that what makes a very, very, very simplistic, inexpensive bed frame really quite interesting. And I'm really happy that I purchased it, and I love the color of it, and I love the story that it kind of has to tell, and it makes the bed really quite interesting. In the corner, I have two doggone ladders. So the story of these is that the Dogon tribe in Africa, when they build their kind of very small houses, above the front door, they have a very small door that's about yay high, and they keep the feed for the animals in that area. They have to keep the feed away from the ground level because the other animals will obviously eat it. So what they do is they create these ladders and they prop the ladder up onto the house, hence the V shape, and they crawl up the ladder. That's what these little ridges are. They're actually steps. They crawl up the ladder and they get to the part where they have the hay in their little house. So they're made by the Dogon tribe, and I love the fluidity of them in the line. Sometimes you find them and they're very, very rigid. It's hard to find them with movement. These were actually quite beautiful, and I bought them at different times, and I love they almost like speak to each other. And this one I found at a shop, and it was the day of the Queen's funeral. And I was in the shop and I told the shop owner that I would buy this. And obviously all of London was completely shut down. There were no taxis, there was nothing. He said, how are you going to get this home? It's extremely heavy. So I carried it home with me on the tube on the day of the Queen's funeral. And you can imagine what the tube was like with all of those people in London. And I had to wait about a half an hour for the right car to come by that I could actually squeeze myself in the tube and get in there with this monstrously heavy piece of wood. And I think everyone in the car was looking at me thinking that I was some kind of crazy person carrying this, especially on the day of the Queen's funeral. But I will always remember the day that I purchased it. And I really, really love them. I think that they have a beautiful story to tell, a beautiful patina, and I love, as I said before, the two of those together and how they speak to each other. And next to that is just a marble pedestal together with a Chinese wine jug. The Chinese used to create these, and they used to fill them up with wine, and they used to transport them with them wherever they go. And one of the things that I love about this one is it has all of these stickers on them, and I always wonder the story that those stickers have to tell, kind of like a luggage when you take your luggage and you put a stamp on it or a sticker, or you buy a patch or something. And I think it's a wonderful story that it must tell. And inside of this is just an olive branch. One of my favorite things is olive trees and olive branches. And I was lucky to come across an olive tree about 2 weeks ago, and I had my scissors with me, of course. So I took a couple of cuttings and I put them all around the house. At the foot of the bed, there is a Lobi stool. This is an antique Lobi stool with a beautiful patina. I purchased this from a dealer in a market, an African dealer in a market. And the Lobi people actually created this, and they would sleep on it. So they would lay like right here. Their head would go right about here. And they're really beautiful because they almost look like birds. And they're not very hard to find. They're not very easy to find, pardon me, this large with this beautiful of a patina. And I picked that up and I put that at the foot of the bed, and I think it adds a beautiful, almost architectural, organic element. In the side of the room, this chair is a William Catavolos chair. William Catavolos designed this chair, I believe in 1954, with some of his colleagues. He was a Pratt graduate, and I believe he became a Pratt instructor. He was a very, very famous architect in America, in New York, and he designed this chair called the T chair. I always wanted this chair, and they're not the easiest to find. And I was once again at the Porte de Clignancourt, and there was a gentleman who was selling 4 of them. And I thought, dare I ask him to just buy one, because, you know, it's like separating a family sometimes when you ask someone to separate chairs. And he had to think about it, and he said no. And I walked around again, and I kind of looked at him, and he went like this. And we finally were able to negotiate me purchasing one of them. And it's a funny story because I always go to the market, these people always see me, and he told me that ever since I've bought one, he has had many people come and ask them to buy the other 3, and when they buy the other, when they wanted to purchase the 3, they ask him, where is the 4th chair? And of course, I'm the culprit of the 4th chair. But it's something that I always treasured and always wanted, never really came across it, and I found it at the market, and I'm super happy about it. This piece over here is a Chinese 19th century apothecary chest. It is as useless as it is beautiful. You can't do anything with this piece of furniture. I always wanted one. I got one from an antiques dealer called Indigo Antiques in the United Kingdom. They sell beautiful Indian, Asian, Chinese, Japanese antiques, and the patina is wonderful. These drawer pulls, some of them have Chinese coins, which is so beautiful. Once again, we have another Florence Knoll lamp that I found, I think on Le Bon Coin, and I was able to pick it up. Some Chinese vases, African sculptures. These are the Kumbaya figures. These were, I believe, 1000 to 1200 AD. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, they were Southern Americans who fled, the Kumbaya Southern American people. They fled to Colombia, I think it was Colombia, and they were basically made redundant from the Spanish Exquisition. And they made these terracotta figures, and a lot of them used to have metal rings in their noses, but you know, I always loved the proportion of them and how everything is so linear, and I was able to find these from a dealer, and I picked those up, and it's not so usual that you get both the pair, so you have the male and the female one. Over here is a Florence Knoll side table, a marble Florence Knoll side table. Once again, some Ralph Lauren lamps. This is a ceramicist that I love. Her name is Rina Menardi. She is from the Venice area in Italy, and I was in La Rinascente, and I found a bowl that is somewhere in the house, tucked away in a little cabinet at the bottom of the sale section of the store, and I thought that really appeals to me, and I picked it up and I purchased it, and her name was written on the bottom, and I did some research, and I fell in love with her and her work, and I contacted the studio, and I purchased these 2. She does beautifully organically shaped bowls and mugs and plates and vessels, and the colors are beautiful, the texture is beautiful, and I got these 2, and I just filled it up with some acorns that were on the side of the road a couple of months ago, and I love things from nature, so I just filled them up, put them in a bag, and I put them in that bowl. This is the Coco de Mer, which has a very interesting story. The Coco de Mer is the largest nut in the world. It can weigh to something like 40 to 80 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, and they're native to the Seychelles, and they come from these trees that, like I said, are only found in the Seychelles, and the trees, if I'm not mistaken, take about 40 years to mature. And after they mature, they take about 10 years to bear fruit or nuts. And these nuts are only produced by the female trees. The male trees produce flowers. Only the female trees can produce these nuts. As I said, they're the largest nut in the world, and they are near extinction. And if you go to the Seychelles and you leave with one of these nuts, you can actually go to jail in the airport. You can buy them, and they have to be purchased with a special stamp. And in order to leave the country with it, they almost have to be vetted from a dealer that allows you to take it out of the country. This is a skeletal drawing of an arm that I thought was quite beautiful, and I framed it in black. And I just love the composition and the mixture of all of these objects together. I think the most important thing for me is that when friends and family come, that they just feel at ease. I do love beautiful things. I do love beautiful environments, but I think the most important thing is that when people come, they can put their feet up on the coffee table, or they can put their wine glass down, or their teacup, or their whatever they're eating or whatever they're doing. Because at the end of the day, this is not a museum, it's a home, and I want people to feel comfortable and at ease. My favorite thing about this home is that when I come home from a long day or a holiday or going to see someone or a weekend away, I open up the door and I know that this is the place that I feel happy. This is the place that I feel serene. I put my music on. I love jazz music. I love to cook. I put my music on. I go in the kitchen. I do my cooking, and it makes me feel relaxed. And it's a place that I never get tired of. I think a house, the soul of the home, is really the people that are in it. You can buy beautiful things, you can collect beautiful things, you can arrange them wonderfully, but at the end of the day, they're really just things. It's all just stuff. And some of it is beautiful, some of it is less beautiful. But I think that the most important thing about a home is the people that come, the people that spend the time there, the time that we spend together, the memories, the laughs. I think for me, that's what makes the home the most important thing.